Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barnes. Today, we're going to be talking about a little bit about the Arizona debate. Since clips here and there, there's a wild one going around with the Libertarian candidate who just kind of went way left field with something. So that's why the title is "This is Why Libertarians Can't Have Nice Things," which some other Libertarians are speaking out like, "Bro, you could have just talked about funding things here instead of like new wars and stuff overseas and et cetera, blah blah blah." And you go to like arguing about whether we should vote on the age of consent. So it was very interesting. Also, Joe Biden was asked about OPEC not producing as much as he would like to, and he just kind of started backing away awkwardly from reporters, and he's now becoming a bit of a living meme with that. Also going to talk about Kanye West and an interview he had with Tucker Carlson. So he's getting a lot of play as of late. He was at a fashion show not too long ago with Candace Owens. They had a White Lives Matter shirt on. Well, they both had those shirts. And so that blew up the internet quite a few days ago. And people were talking about it on TikTok and other kind of places, which, there are people who are really annoyed with it, but there's a lot of people who are just like, whatever. But Candace Owens is also, generating press because she is about to drop her documentary, if they didn't drop it already, about BLM, which I'm totally going to watch. I still have my Daily Wire access going. I did not end it, so I will watch that when it drops, and I think it'll be fascinating to see all the stuff that I didn't know. But I've been following BLM for a long while, but I'm sure she's going to dig deeper into some stuff that I didn't know. So be very, very fascinating. But before we jump into everything today, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content that I have on the website, different articles that I have, different videos that I have. Go ahead and share that video that I did for Prop 3. Thank you guys for sharing that. I did also share one for Jocelyn Benson today that the Brighter Michigan PAC put out. So go ahead and share that around, especially if you live in Michigan, so people can know reasons not to vote for her. Like, do you know when they did the Zucker Bucks and Mark Zucker, from Facebook, was pouring in all kinds of different money to different places around the country to fortify the election, as they say. One of the groups that he gave money to was a nonprofit that was started by Jocelyn Benson, which it didn't get much money and stuff before. But with Zuckerberg, they got $12 million into this nonprofit, and they mostly gave it to Democrat consulting groups and stuff. So just a really shady thing that happened. There's other shady things. So go ahead and check out that video. Make sure that you share it. My sister left a comment, so that's why I'm kind of chuckling. It's an inside joke in the comments. Don't break my focus. I want to thank Brighter Michigan PAC. I'm in their studio today. If I say something today that triggers you, they don't care. I don't care. It doesn't work like that. But please go ahead and support them. Working on some really important stuff for the election to try to change the tide here in Michigan. And it's do or die in a lot of situations. So please go ahead and check out Brighter Michigan PAC and support them. If I share something that's from the PAC page, please go ahead and share, help them out and share that. They do good work. And if you want to consider giving to them, please do that as well. If you like what I do here at blacktnews.com, you can go to blacktnews.com/donate and go to this donate button on the page. And whether it's a small gift or large gift, very much appreciate it. Costs to stream, costs to run my website, do all that stuff. So I thank you guys for people who want to cover that overhead. God bless you. I thank you guys for sharing, for liking, for subscribing. Make sure you follow me across all my different social media platforms. If you watch on Facebook, please take the time to go still, follow on YouTube. That really does help. So all my links should really be in the description if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube. Otherwise, you can go to the website and find all that stuff. Also got cool merch you guys can check out, like the Black Tea News mugs and the Club XX lifetime membership merch you guys can check out. Make Crack Whack Again, Trump 2024, which is a reference to Biden and the crack pipes that they apparently gave to people. And Roe and Casey Life Wins. Got all kinds of good stuff you guys can check out on the site. Also, next weekend, I will be at Motor City Comic Con. So if you're in Michigan or in the Michigan-ish area and you like Comic Cons or conventions like that, or you just want to pop in and buy a book or something, I will be there. And I've got lots of books that you guys can check out. Otherwise, you guys can just go to blacktnews.com if you hit the merchandise button. You can see all my stuff there. So you guys know that I like to start with something that's humorous, and Biden is his own story all today. So he was asked about OPEC. It's not producing as much as he would like, and he said it's disappointing. And then he said, what about releasing this American energy? I don't know if you're going to be able to pick up the reporters asking questions, but he just backs away so oddly. And it's just now taken over the internet.
But it is a disappointment, and it says that they're a problem.
Are you worried about
Yeah, I don't know what that was about, but obviously they're like, make it the Simpsons meme. So there's lots of memes like that today with our president. By the way, like our strategic energy oil supply reserves, not quite saying it right, but you know what I'm talking about. We're at a 40-year low, which they kept releasing oil to try to save a cent or two on oil to try to, I don't know what, save themselves from the midterms. And at first they're saying Biden couldn't do anything. And when they released it, they're like, oh, look at Biden. He's doing stuff. And I'm like, oh, so he can fix it when it goes up. Like when he goes down 2 cents, it's all him. And when it goes up like $2, it's not him. Okay. But obviously they've been wildly inconsistent with where they want to place blame, and he's tried to blame it all on Putin and all the other stuff, which there's contributing factors there. But the oil companies kept trying to tell Biden, hey, you can do X, Y, and Z to make these prices go down, and he just would keep blaming them and just call them greedy oil producers, etc. So we are at the point that gas is $4.20, $4.19, $4.49 in some places, depending on which corner you're turning. At least in Michigan, I know it's much higher in other places. You poor people in California and some other parts of the country where it's really bad. But I'm sure if he there's things he could do. I mean, he made it a priority as soon as he got into office to not really produce oil. I mean, one of the first things he did was shut down Keystone. And the tone that you set for energy makes a difference for how everyone else is going to produce oil. When you guys are promising that you're going to end this industry and then want people to rev up their production for now, when it takes time to invest in that stuff, and like 10 years down the line, you're saying 10, 15 years down the line, you don't even want them to exist. You ran on bankrupting this industry. Of course, there's uncertainty there. So he was just the wrong man for the job. Maybe people didn't take him seriously, especially like in places like Pennsylvania and other places. I don't understand why anyone would check yes for him, but people did. And a lot of people are paying. A lot of people are paying for it. We're all paying for it. I saw Defiant L's. He showed a verified check mark user saying, all the people who put these "look what Joe Biden did, I did that" Joe Biden stickers on the gas tank are really going to look stupid. And it's still around $4. So yeah, look what he did. Maybe people need to start putting what stickers there too. Maybe that's a shadow campaign. people need to start doing, because they did not want to lower the gas tax in Michigan. They would not do that. They would not do that. So moving on. Okay, so there was a debate the other night, and Blake Masters apparently was killing it. The race is very close. It's like, I think, a point, if I'm not mistaken. I have a poll here. Mark Kelly is at 46, and he's the incumbent. And Arizona's kind of purple. It was more reddish, but it's kind of purple right now. And it's Mark Kelly versus Blake Masters. And Mark Kelly doesn't get as much play as Cinema, who is more on the fence about things. And people, I guess, view her, which people were very worried about her going in. Don't get me wrong, I think you should vote her out when you get a chance. But she had all this like wackadoodle stuff like in her past, but since being elected, she's tried to do things that weren't very, very, very crazy, but she has buckled on things. Obviously, the Build Back Better plan was just restructured into this inflation reduction plan, which it's like, they just changed the name. It's not actually going to reduce inflation, but a lot of stuff that they wanted to do is the same thing. So she buckled. But Mark Kelly was never a question mark, and he was always going to be someone who's going to sign on to Biden stuff. So, and Mark Kelly has, Blake Masters has made that point. So hopefully he gets voted out, but it is very close right now. So it could go either way. But there's some great moments in the debate, particularly on immigration. So I think this is the first clip I want to show.
I've been focused on the border since day one on this job. I'm down there all the time. I was on the phone this week just, with Mayor Nichols of Yuma, Sheriff Daniels of Cochise County, talking about what more we need for Border Patrol and immigration.
That, my friends, is called evasion.
We're working to raise Border Patrol pay by 18%. I've got legislation to do that. I've been focused on the border since day one.
Okay. To no great effect because we have a wide open southern border. So if that's the best you can do, I respectfully request you resign and let's get someone in the seat who will actually secure our border.
Da, 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 da. Someone did a meme they could do with the glasses falling in the Snoop Dogg music. That's a good point. Like, you've been focused, but it's wide open. So Blake had some more points along those lines that were very good.
He's the 50th vote in the U.S. Senate. Joe Biden needed his vote. Mark Kelly a year ago could have dug his heels in and said, Mr. President, I'm not supporting a single thing, not a single spending bill, not a single piece of your agenda, unless and until we get border security. Biden would have had to secure the border. Mark Kelly, if this is the result of Senator Kelly being focused on the border, my gosh, he's the most ineffective and worst senator of all time.
Yeah, so Democrats have, obviously they've gotten some stuff done and stuff passed that they wanted, more stuff than I would have obviously liked for them to be able to achieve, because they've had the split. And you've had some Republicans that have crossed over and helped, but just some stuff they've been able to get with Kamala just breaking tie or whatever. So at the same time, them having the split in the Senate and not technically, I guess, kind of control, because Kamala can break the split, can break the tie. It's made them not look good in quite a few cases, because people have the idea that they still have some bit of control, but they're not just working hard enough. So if Blake Masters is correct, if Mark Kelly wanted to play hardball, he could play hardball, but he's never been a question mark. Maybe they need to do a play on words there with, anyway, campaign's almost over, but they could have did some kind of play on his word with the question and the mark and being his name. But he's never been a question as far as which way he would vote with Biden on certain stuff. Cinema, maybe you'd have to will Cinema go along with this? Will Joe Manchin go along with this? Mark Kelly's never been a question. But so if he wanted to say, hey, we're not going to do this infrastructure bill unless you do something with the border, that's where our priorities need to be. That's something that's very important for the nation. We need to secure our border. You're not getting our vote. And he could probably get Cinema or somebody along with that, but that's not what he wanted to do. He was just a rubber stamp for Biden. So very good point from Masters there. And Here's another
How do we
one.
know when the border is secure?
Well, call me old-fashioned, but I think the correct amount of illegal immigration is 0. That's what federal law says. The problem is that Joe Biden and Mark Kelly are willfully ignoring federal law. They've surrendered our southern border. They've given it up to the Mexican drug cartels. We had operational control 2 years ago, and now it's just a complete disaster. They incentivize people to break the law. Illegal aliens, when they come here, they're supposed to be caught and deported back to their home country or back to some other country that wants them. But no, Joe Biden and Mark Kelly, they laid out the welcome mat. This is the greatest country in the history of the world. If you invite everybody to come here, you'll create a crisis. And so 5 million illegals, literally 5 million, have come here in the last 22 months. Joe Biden and Mark Kelly have welcomed them. When these people cross, they know not only will they not be deported, but they're given envelopes with cash, plane tickets. Here's a hotel room in Scottsdale. We treat these people better than we treat our own U.S. military service members. I find that shameful. 300,000 come through every month. It's a humanitarian disaster. The women and children are raped. The men are indentured servants sold into some kind of slavery. And it's not just the people, it's the drugs, the fentanyl that's coming through. It's killing kids. We're losing 2,000 Arizonans every year to fentanyl. This stuff is poison. It's coming right there up through the southern border, and Mark Kelly and Joe Biden have not done a single thing to stop it. It is carnage. And so I think we should secure the border. That means a wall. It means doubling the size of Border Patrol. And it means let's get back to deporting people who try to break into our country, something that Mark Kelly routinely votes against.
Da 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 da. That was a really good answer. Yeah, you gotta be tough on border security, and there's plenty of Republicans who aren't tough enough on it. But Mark Kelly is definitely not doing his due diligence, and that's really gonna hurt him since they are a border state. So, there, I've had conversations with people from Arizona, and they're dropping these folks off at hotels because they're like out of space here. So then they have them stay in hotels. So, and we know that they don't want people in their facilities over flooding and have the images of kids in cages and so on, or people under the underpasses. So they release them into the interior of the United States, and they hand them a cell phone. It's like, here's a cell phone from the government. Please make sure that you keep it on you for your court date. So, we're not going to have like an ankle monitor or something. We're just giving you the cell phone. And who knows if they're going to keep it. Maybe they'll keep it because it's like, hey, I got a free cell phone. Or maybe they'll be like, I don't want you guys tracking me. I'll just get a different phone and just disappear. So we have people who don't want to secure the border, obviously. People who are blatantly incompetent. I don't know if you could purposely do a worse job. I guess you could, but Biden and his folks are just blatantly bad at this. So Master's doing a good job calling them out. Now, the Libertarian candidate, Marc Victor, had a weird comment, and we'll leave it at that.
It's not our problem. Our big problem with voting is that everything is up for a vote today. I don't want anybody telling me how I should use my body, my property, my money, and my time. None of that should be up for a vote. And I don't want to tell any of you how to use your body, property, money, or time. We are a constitutional republic, not an unrestricted democracy. Today, everything is up for a vote. Very little should be up for a vote. Like, for example, who should represent the good people of the state of Arizona? That should be up for a vote. What should the age of consent be? This is something that reasonable minds disagree on. That should be up for a vote. But everything else that we are voting on that has anything to do with your body, your property, your money, your time, that's what freedom is about, folks. None of that should be up for a vote.
How many people, I guess, have heated debates about the age of consent? How out of all the things that you could mention, to be the, I don't know, why not go somewhere that'd be less controversial? There's reasonable minds. I've never had an argument with someone over the age of consent before. I guess I'm curious what he thinks that is. I'm assuming we're talking about sexual consent. What? Oh gosh, I'm sorry. That's the weirdest thing to bring up. So there was a libertarian who because I had retweeted it, and I said, why don't you vote libertarian? And it was like the libertarian, and I had his video underneath, and a friend of mine who's is a Republican but libertarian minded, I guess you could say, had copied someone's post under my tweet. I'm trying to just find it really quick. Because basically they're just like, there's other things that they could have said and not focused on. And I agree. I don't know how you cannot agree. They said, hey, libertarian candidates. This is Dave Smith. He's a comedian. Hey, libertarian candidates. You are running on free markets and peace. We oppose spending billions to Ukraine. We are for sound money. We are against the Patriot Act, trillion-dollar corporate giveaways, stuff like that. And by the way, there's a ton of people across the aisle, I think, that could agree with a lot of that stuff, but especially crossing over into independents or people who do vote red can agree with like that stuff I just listed. But they ended the tweet with, you are not running on repealing age of consent laws. JFC, which stands for Jesus bleeping Christ. So that was wild. You know, sometimes when you see clips of like the Libertarian Convention, there's some really wild stuff that happens. And you'll get into some awkward conversations. One time, I think Austin Peterson was running against Gary Peters. And Gary Peters had that big Aleppo moment. What is Aleppo? And he had some moments that were just like, bro, that doesn't even sound very libertarian. And there was a meme going on with like Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like, you are by far the worst libertarian I've ever seen. He's like, but you have heard of me. And so, but anyway, Austin Peters was on Crowder's show, and then they got into like an awkward conversation, and he mentioned like that murder, that there shouldn't be like blanket murder being illegal or something along those lines. And I was just kind of like, it was kind of weird. It was kind of weird. So sometimes you just get to a spot like, I can agree with you on maybe like, I don't know, 85%. And then some of that other stuff just gets a little wild. And I just can't cross that finish line with you guys. Plus they're still not a major party. Now, if people vote libertarian, you know, they'll get more benefits to get to being a third party contender. But I don't know. I think our system is pretty much set on the two system. And if one gets bigger, then there'll be maybe three for a little while, and then there'll be probably two again. I mean, that's what happened. The Whigs and the Democrats used to be a thing, and then the Republicans were the smaller party, and then they became the major party, and the Whigs went extinct. So I don't know. I know a lot of people don't love our system, but I think it is going to be what it is for a while. But I vote red. I'm not always happy with the Republicans, though. I got to tell you, I'm not always happy with my party. I'm not always happy with the different inner politics, infighting, policy positions and moves, and different attitudes on particular stuff. But overall, I'm voting red. Next, I want to bring to attention, Kanye West was on Tucker's show last night, and he talked about quite a few things, but a lot of groups are sharing this particular clip around when he talked about being pro-life. And he had a lantern around his chest of a ultrasound. So I'm going to go ahead and play that clip, and I think he says some pretty interesting stuff that's not really rocket science or new information, especially if you probably watch my show daily. But I hope there's an audience that doesn't know this, that learns this.
still on from it, and there's a photograph on it. What is that?
It's a photograph of a baby's ultrasound.
Why is that? And that you just designed that?
Yes.
Why? What does that mean?
It just represents life. I'm pro-life.
Boy, so you wear it on a badge. What kind of response do you get? And good, amen. I agree.
I don't care about people's responses. I care about the fact that there's more black babies being aborted than born in New York City at this point. That 50% of black death in America is abortion. So I really don't care about people's responses. I perform for an audience of one, and that's God.
Amen. That's how my sister will say it. Amen. If you're wondering which one, Sabrina, I have a lot of sisters. So, yeah, he's not wrong about the disproportionate amount of black babies that are killed. I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's in the 30s percentile on the whole black abortion average, maybe 30s, 40s. But I think that's more like the CDC numbers, and the CDC actually, if you see abortion numbers and they're from the CDC, they don't normally include California because states don't have to report. It doesn't include California and a couple other places, but California, that's a huge chunk of abortion. So for the longest time, I kept saying there's like 600,000 abortions a year. If you Google that, that's what you'll get from the CDC, but it's like leaving out a couple places. So you got Guttmacher says the number is like 900 and 30,000 or something like that. So in the US, we have about a million induced abortions, because some people are like, that's including miscarriages. I'm like, which a miscarriage is a spontaneous abortion technically. But no, we're talking about induced abortions. There's about 1 million in the US every year. In Michigan, where I live, there's about 30,000. And 55.6% of the babies aborted are black, and we're about 14% of the population. So that is a huge discrepancy. And people all the time, Biden and basically every activist you can think of pretty much will say, hey, women of color will be impacted, that they won't, if they can't have access to abortions. And that always sounds so wild to me, because I'm like, so you mean what, that the impact is that they'll have their children and they won't be killed? And you make it seem like that's such a bad thing. And then people will quote things like the Turnaway study and say like, well, which has bad methodology or whatever, but let's just go with it for a second and say that, hey, women who don't have these abortions, you know, they won't be they'll be worse off as far as economics and education and all the other kind of stuff. But something that the Turnaway study won't tell you, if you read the headlines, you got to like buy the book. I think there's maybe like one study that references this in the Turnaway study. But most people just want to talk about those things. But they don't mention the fact that 96% of women who are turned away from abortion, according to their study, don't regret not having an abortion. As a matter of fact, about a third of those women, after 1 week of being turned away, don't regret not having an abortion. There was one commenter on one of my videos said that I think this was on my Facebook page. Someone said, I meant to share it. It was such a good testimony. They said that they had thought about having an abortion, and then they didn't end up having it. And sometimes they still get like anxiety, or for a while they had anxiety just thinking about what they possibly would have done to their child. And they love their child, and it just goes to show you, people might think about it, and I think they couldn't go for some reason that day, and they ended up just changing their mind. So, I mean, we know that restrictions create less abortions because more people will have less pregnancies. There's some data that people try to use. It's kind of inappropriate to say otherwise, where there's more restrictions. But when there are more restrictions, people tend to make better decisions about who they sleep with. and they're a little more responsible with their bodies. I mean, when the Roe v. Wade decision came down, all these people were typing like and researching how they could get a vasectomy, and people are doing stories, and women are talking about sex strikes. It's like, yes, exactly. You do have a choice. You have bodily autonomy, and you can choose to make more responsible decisions and not get pregnant and then kill the baby, right? But the fact that so many women will go on to not regret their abortion, it just really makes abortion on demand really, really immoral. I mean, I thought it was immoral anyway, but that just takes it to a whole nother level. Oh, my sister said, I've yet to see black media show that clip of Kanye talking about abortion. They are so focused on him wearing the White Lives Matter shirt. Yeah, not surprised about that. That's a stat they don't want to talk about. I was on the radio the other day talking about Prop 3, and there's a lot more in Prop 3 besides abortion, and I focus on a lot of other things because I know abortion is so touchy for so many people. But if there was any other thing going on that disproportionately impacted the black community, and it's not just black community, it's blacks, Hispanics, and then whites and probably Asians. I don't know, but it is black, then Hispanic, but black is way higher than everybody else. If it was something else, we would call it a crisis. We would. As a matter of fact, in 2020, there was a disproportionate amount of black people dying from COVID, at least that's what we're saying. And our governor decided to say we had a racism crisis in the state. And they decided to say that if you were like a government worker or a nurse, that you had to take implicit bias training. So they're saying that racism is so bad and our nurses are racist, so we got to train them, because apparently that's why the people are dying, because of racism, and people aren't getting the care that they need. And it could be that some of us are disproportionately heftier than other races. Let's just be for real. And some of us have higher comorbidities, which, by the way, our government did not take a concerted effort to try to really pressure people into working out. Another thing that Kanye talked about, he talked about Lizzo, and Lizzo works. She's the big, and I mean that physically, big singer who she's very popular, but she's large. And he said that she works with a trainer who's a friend of his, and if she posts anything about losing 10 pounds or something, people, come at her. It's a bad thing to lose weight. When Rebel Wilson, yeah, when she lost some weight, people came for her. When Adele lost some weight, people came for her. And they made some decisions, for their bodies. Like Rebel wanted to be in a healthier position when she had children, so she lost some weight. It's just a reality that weight's not. You may think you look good, but it's still, not healthy for your body. My friend from TikTok, This Is Savvy, she decided to go on a serious health weight loss journey, especially because of COVID, and didn't want to be in a position where she was at risk. So she did get the vaccine at first, and then she didn't like that she just rushed out and she got it without really thinking about it. Like, her mom really wanted her to get it and stuff. And then she's just like, I rushed out and I put something in my body, and I didn't really even think that much about it. She's like, what did I do? And so she decided to start making some better decisions, and she's lost a lot of weight. So Michelle Obama could have went back to her get up campaign or whatever. She was really pushing when she was in the White House, but they didn't do anything like that. They didn't even really start talking about it till way, way late in the pandemic, even though they knew that was a part of it. Black folks will have high blood pressure, all kinds of stuff that can contribute to the comorbidities. But they decided to say it was racism because of the disproportionate amount. So my point is that in 2020, they were like, okay, racism is a big problem. But that same year, you still had over 50% of Black people. I believe it was maybe like 52 that year, if I'm not mistaken. Perhaps I am, but it was way disproportionate. In that same year of Black people dying in abortion, and it's mom is the word. We wouldn't treat anything else that way. Everything else is systemic racism except for this. Even though we know it's rooted in population control and racism and eugenics. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. It is so bizarre. And I don't want to talk about the subject like all the time, but there's just such crazy hypocrisy in this. But speaking of the White Lives Matter, Kanye West did go to Paris for a fashion show, and Candace Owens went with him, and they both donned these White Lives Matter t-shirts, and folks are very upset about it. There's some big influencers who just kind of like, it's just them being controversial. What, same old, same old. Some people laughing, some people angry about it, and I guess I kind of feel more personally ambivalent about it too, especially since at fashion shows, don't you do stuff to make statements? They obviously went there and they made a statement. Got people talking, got it trending, got people upset, got people triggered, got people having different conversations. But the larger conversation about the White Lives Matter thing is people continue saying Black Lives Matter. If someone said the same thing, people would have an issue with it, essentially. I've heard some people make the comments like, everyone's talking about this, but they're not having the deeper conversations about how Black Lives Matter, the organization itself, is a big con, a big scam, which Candace Owens is about to launch a movie about BLM and their money and how they spent it and etc. I saw in a recent trailer that she's going to dive a lot into a lot of money they put into LGBT and drag shows and queens and other stuff like that, which I'm not surprised, because very early on in BLM days, I mean, when they like first started, back in the days of like when Obama was still president, I remember going to a website that was just kind of, made and whatever, and they said something along the lines, and I don't remember the exact phrasing of it, but it was something along the lines of, we're going to focus more on Black trans women because they're more marginalized than straight Black men. And I'm like, why can't you just care about Black men? Like, I thought your thing was like police brutality. Why are you trying to divide it and not focus on Black men? So that was really bizarre to me. So I'm glad that Candace is going to expose some of this stuff. My sister, my oldest sister, she had a friend who went to a BLM rally, or not a rally, but some kind of meeting. And this was early on in their conception. And they weren't talking about police brutality or anything like that, or rights and etc. They were talking about just a bunch of gay stuff. And if that's your club, if that's your thing, whatever. But you think this brand is associated with a particular thing, and you go to a meeting and they're just talking about gay stuff. And if you look at their numbers and where they decided, a lot of the money they decided to invest back in themselves, and where they decided to give it, a lot of their money that they rewarded to was to different LGBT organizations, and putting different kind of BLM education schools, but a lot of that had to do with like gender and sexuality. And if you go to their website, they want to disrupt the nuclear family, and they list on their What We Believe page, which doesn't exist anymore, but you can Google it and find what it used to say. But they were inclusive toward every single kind of person besides a Black father. Like these straight Black father types, those aren't people that BLM made it a priority to uplift. They're like, everyone else is marginalized. I guess a Black father and white men, I guess those are those are the groups that BLM is like, It was so bizarre. It was so bizarre. So I'm not surprised that she's gonna dig into a lot of that different stuff, because it's and I'm glad people will know. And I tried to warn people in 2020. I'm telling you, I was so annoying to people, I'm sure, because I would go on different people's pages. I see that BLM, and I'd be like, I'm a keyboard warrior. Just be like, do you know this? Do you know this and that and that? And they'd be like, well, I'm just trying to help. I'm like, this is not the way. This is not the way. And so many people gave to this scam. And another thing that's so frustrating about people giving so much money to these scam and organizations, I was so many people make the claim like, you don't support people if you won't support the government paying for X, Y, and Z. And conservatives will say, no, I just believe in charity. I believe in us being, taking personal responsibility for ourselves and try to make something for ourselves and pay for ourselves and take care of our families. But that could also stretch out beyond in the community. And we try to help the different people around us. Okay, so if you look at money and how much we spend on politics and races, that, like, think about how much money comes across the country to somebody like Beto O'Rourke so he can win in his race, or which he's not going to, or Stacey Abrams getting so much money from coastal elites, or how much money that people gave to BLM, or how much money that Black Panther or Endgame or Star Wars made domestically. Think about how much money that we decide to collectively spend on things. How much money sites like Pornhub gets, or OnlyFans. Don't tell me there's not money between us all to help take care of each other and to uplift our communities, that we need the government so much to uplift the marginalized person, the widow, and the orphan. We can, as a society, uplift those people with our own goodwill if there was just enough goodwill to go around. So people were so invested in BLM, and that's how they wanted to help, but they didn't want to invest their time, and they didn't even want to do a thorough investigation. And really, they were investing in people who are going to continue to destroy their communities, because the fear that they push actually leads to more Black lives being hurt. And they're also pushing, gender identity ideology and stuff. And they try to push, as everyone who's basically pushing all this stuff, they're trying to do it behind parents' backs and etc. So I never liked BLM. I'm glad they're continuously having these conversations and make people talk about this stuff. I guess the only controversy is, like, people would say, when people say Black Lives Matter, people would say all lives matter. So they could have worn an all lives shirt, because that was like the rhetoric, I guess, reply. But that wasn't there. They wanted to do something different. Say all lives matter. So I mean, white lives matter. So I get it. I get it. I'm not surprised at all, but I'm not surprised people are angry about it. I'm not surprised they did it. And it is what it is. It's just Kanye's always going to be different. And Candace is always going to be controversial and trying to use things that she knows maybe shouldn't be controversial, but they are controversial. That's what makes her love it all the more. So, not surprised in the least bit. But Kanye made some interesting comments on his interview. I'll have to go watch personally more of it myself. But he's very right about the disproportionate amount of Black lives that are taken. There's a video that went viral of this guy who was just interviewing people about Roe v. Wade getting overturned in New York. And one of the people he talked to was the grandson of Margaret Sanger. And he went on like, this will impact women of color. And I'm just like, things we already knew for 500. Like, we know you want more Black people to be able to have access to this. And I'm not saying that because I think that he's still racist all these years in the future, or that was just in the genes. But a lot of people say this crazy stuff, not realizing how racist they actually sound. Like, oh yeah, those women of color, they really need the abortion so they can what? So they can what? Like, you don't sound kind in the least bit. Like, we're not talking about removing a mole or something. We're talking about destroying their progeny, which if you talk about, people say that Black people can't be racist because they lack the institutional power. Of course, that's ridiculous. But wouldn't we have more institutional power if we weren't, destroying our own population? So, something else to think about. Something else to definitely think about. Got a little bit of time left, so I want to go ahead and talk about this article that I saw by Rebel News about the transgender surgery industry projected to grow to $5 billion. A report from Grandview Research found that the industry surrounding the trans surgeries saw a 1.9 billion valuation in 2021 and is forecasted to expand at an annual growth rate of more than 11% through 2030. As transgender surgery of minors becomes more normalized across the children's hospitals in the United States, the industry is projected to reach as much as $5 billion by the end of the decade. A report from Grandview Research found that Nissan industries surrounding the trans surgery saw $1.9 billion valuation in 2021. It is forecasted to expand at an annual growth rate of more than 11% through 2030. The rising incidences of gender dysphoria and the increasing number of people opting for gender confirmation surgeries are expected to boost the growth during the forecast period, the researchers stated. The report, which has cited a study from Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, claims that 78% of female-to-male transgender males or girls who identify as boys experience gender dysphoria by 7 years old. Gosh, can you imagine? Just think about when you're like 7. And my nephew's 7. He's pretty savvy, but he's still 7. I just can't imagine people being like, yeah, that we got to get them on puberty blockers as soon as possible. The researchers say that so-called gender-affirming operations will accelerate in the coming years as hospitals shed their pandemic-era protocols and resume elective surgeries. Numerous patients are also receiving telehealth consultations, that's true too. I know young women who basically had got prescribe stuff over their phone and could go to Planned Parenthood and pick up their hormones. Grandview Research states that government support is also driving the market through Medicare coverage of sex reassignment surgeries, which include hysterectomies and ovarectomies, procedures that may soon receive coverage by major insurance companies, which people will lobby to do. Planned Parenthood lobbied, for example, to make, and this is supposed to be like when they were supposed to be exemptions and stuff, but they lobbied the California government to try to make Christian universities and churches and stuff cover abortions on their insurance. Planned Parenthood has a hand in the gender movement. They make money with the hormones and stuff. They're getting more into it. They're pushing things like Prop 3 in Michigan to try to make it so that everyone, including children, has a right to sterilization and reproductive rights, they say. And that's without any sort of parental consent. Now, there's people who get this stuff done who have parental consent. I don't think a minor should have that kind of right. I think our governor should, our governor won't do it. But there's as more stories come out across the country, there's different Republican states that are crafting different bills in the legislature to ban this butchery of children, period. So I think that's what states should do. And in the UK, they've been at this longer, and there's been more lawsuits. They're having a change in direction. There's still some radical stuff going on, but we're like full steam ahead, choosing not to look at what happened there. But that's, I guess the money's too good right now. They want to cash in what they can cash in, and then untangle all the messes later. As reported, Rebel News, numerous children's hospitals in the United States are being exposed for providing transgender surgeries to minors, a claim that proponents of the irreversible surgeries often try to deny and dismiss as disinformation. The American Medical Association and other major medical groups have also called on the U.S. Department of Justice and social media companies to crack down what they refer to as coordinated campaigns of disinformation pertaining to trans surgeries on minors. So yeah, we did talk about that earlier in the week about the American Medical Association sending a letter to the DOJ, and they obviously want social media groups and platforms and stuff to crack down on people like Matt Walsh, who did the movie What is a Woman, who exposed like a hospital in Tennessee recently. They want them to crack down on libs of TikTok. Now, I don't know what they're going to do after Elon Musk gets that site, because it looks like he's going to go ahead and buy it, which the left is freaking out about. They were freaking out about it before, but they are freaking out as it becomes more close to final. Which, by the way, there was a huge Twitter thread of someone, they weren't a verified user, but they did a thread about different journalists who come from these billionaire backgrounds or multi-millionaire backgrounds, and some of them you don't know much a bit about. One of the people they mentioned, Taylor Lorenz, and Carlos Mons. I don't know. I think his first name was Carlos, but he was he went after Steven Crowder really hard and tried to get him banned on YouTube maybe about a year or two ago. He ended up getting let go from, I think, Vox, because he was too left, too communist or whatever, which, he had to be pretty extreme. But they did on him and some other folks. And I don't even think it was 24 hours. His account was banned. Like, well, that's not suspicious in the least bit. His account just got banned. I'm like, so what? One of these guys made a phone call that he did the profile on, and some of them, they're so well connected that if you Google something about them, you just can't find anything about them. Not anything they don't want you to know. So it's all very interesting, but some of these people, they live to cancel you. They live to dox you. Like Taylor Lorenz obviously lives to dox people she doesn't like, and she'll cry about people coming for her all day long, but she's the one who went after libs of TikTok, exposed her name, and actually, she has a common like Jewish name. So there was another woman who ended up getting harassed with the same name, like from the same neighborhood or something. It was just awful, and she's obviously obsessed with libs of TikTok, but they have a lot of institutional power, so we just got to keep trying to fight back and build a parallel economy at the same time. It's nice that Elon Musk is buying Twitter, assuming all that goes through, and he's more of a free speech advocate. But there's still other sites that will just shut you down. I mentioned yesterday that the RNC said that Google is suppressing their emails, if anything that's pertaining to like get out the vote, but also like fundraising. So if they are doing that and they're stifling people from receiving information that could change the election, that's obviously very terrible and a very big accusation. And they're saying it hasn't gone down. It's not like 10% or something like that. They're at like 0%. So it was a pretty alarming report that Ronna McDaniel gave, my former boss when I worked at the Michigan Republican Party in 2015, 2016. But we got to keep fighting the good fight. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Cost to run my site, cost to stream, cost to get filters and all that kind of stuff. I do like a more kind of fancier video. My software is expensive. Everything is, there's a cost associated. So if you want to support, cover some of that overhead, I very much appreciate it. If you can't, I thank you guys for liking, for sharing, subscribing, for commenting. All that does really help. So please continue to do that and tell other people about Black Tea News. Please check out different merchandise we have on the store, like the My Money, My Business shirt. I'm always like sick and tired of people saying, that's not any of your business. I'm like, do you want my wallet though? Like, are my taxpayer dollars involved? Because when you want my taxpayer dollars, it kind of seems like you're asking me for my opinion. Like, my money, my business. So that's where that came from. The Constitution is a glorious liberty document. That's from Frederick Douglass's What is a the 4th of July to a slave speech, and which was so good. And I really feel I guess a kindred spirit when I read that speech, because people aren't getting this same. He had to rebuke Republicans basically for not getting on board and having too much empathy around. I'm sorry, apathy, not empathy. Apathy regarding the slavery issue, and man, I feel that way with the life issue as well. So, and in his speech, there's just a lot of parallels that I can connect to. As a matter of fact, if you go to blacktnews.com, go in the articles, go in the columns. I wrote an article comparing the two situations from that speech. I gotta say, I do think it's a really good article, so I would encourage you guys to go ahead and check that out. Also, I want to thank Brian and Michigan Pack. Again, I was in their studio, and if I offended you, no one cares. But they do good work, so check them out and appreciate. Go help them out. Drop a donation and just help save my state, please. Help save my state. Again, next weekend, I will let you know early next week if I'm going to stream the whole week. But I'll be preparing for Motor City on Thursday. So I won't be live at the very least. I don't know if I'll have the time for a pre-record show. So I won't be live on Thursday, Friday. There may be a show, but I don't know yet. I just don't know if I have the time to pre-record it. But if you're in the area, please consider going to Motor City Comic Con. If you're already planning to go, I have a booth. I'll be at table. I'll be in Artist Alley, and I'll have all my books there. And you guys can go ahead and pick one up and get one signed. If you want to just check it out, because you're not going to go to a convention, I get you. If you go to blacktnews.com, hit the merchandise button, there's a banner there that has my books on it. It'll take you to my book website. But you guys can just go on Amazon and search for my name, Christina Elbar. All that stuff will be there. God bless you guys, and I will see you on Monday.